Hello YouTube, it's Bobby from Madness Labs, back again with another Madness cast. We are on week 9 of these guys, and they just keep getting better. We've had a ton of fun doing this so far, and now we're back mainstream, or we're back streaming on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock. So this week, what we wanted to cover was a little bit more of how to actually take your components that you're working on and kind of sharing them between projects. So one thing that's kind of a different way of thinking with Stencil and building web components is like much like with Ionic Core, how they built a bunch of components and built it into a module, like a set of modules, then allow you to install those things from NPM. It's kind of a different way of thinking. So generally, you're not going to be building, I guess you shouldn't be building giant applications that are just hard coded into these components. The idea of these things is to make something that's small and portable and that you can use between multiple projects. And maybe you have a project that has a bunch of custom components that are all kind of wired into just that app. But more and more as time goes on, it's a good practice to kind of take those components, ship them as individual little pieces, and even more so, share them with the community, because these tools wouldn't be here without the wonderful people at Ionic taking the time to support the open source community, and this community is only as strong as the people that are supporting it. So yeah, and that's actually what today's Madness Challenge is going to be about. So at the end of this video, well, I guess anytime during this video, it's your time. You do it when you want it. So we're going to challenge you guys to submit to us on Twitter your Stencil components with the at us and at Stencil while you're at it, and show off your web components, and we will be retweeting and picking out like our favorites of all the web components that gets tweeted at us on Twitter. And then we're going to feature a couple in next week's Madness Cast on Tuesday, and kind of show off some of the work that you guys have been doing. We've seen some really cool stuff. Today we played around with a web component made web component debugger. Super cool. So again, tweet at us at Madness Labs and at Stencil. Tweet your components that you've been building, and if you haven't built a component yet, follow along in today's video, and I will show you how to build your first component, get it up on NPM, and then how to share it out with people on the interwebs. So that being said, I will take the time to annoy the crap out of you and show you that. Oh no, come back to here. Where is my Patreon banner? God dang it. Okay, well, I can't find my Patreon banner, so you guys are lucky. Yeah, all of them are missing. No! Okay. Well, you guys got away easy this time. It is forgotten all of it. Even like lost my Pokedex. This is wonderful. So, okay, well, I'll just have to tell you, you'll have to imagine it there. Imagine there being a Patreon banner, and imagine yourself going there and actually clicking on it and going to our Patreon and donating $1 per month to keep your developer friends fat and happy. So yeah, feel free to follow us on all of the social networks. We are on Facebook reluctantly. We are on Twitter relentlessly, and we are also on YouTube. So feel free to subscribe to us if this has been helpful. And with all of that said, let's jump right in. So we're going to be using, traditionally, like throughout this whole series, we've been using the Ionic PWA toolkit, which is super awesome for building apps. But when you're building these components, it's setting up the Stencil compiler a little bit differently when you're building these like modular little custom elements that you're trying to port between projects. So to start out, I'm going to use the engine command line tool. So if you haven't installed the engine, I would really recommend that you check it out. It's up on NPM, and I think there's a link in the description. If not, I'll try to make sure to put one down there. But basically, you're just going to run npm install-g MadnessEnjin, and that will install the MadnessEnjin tool, which again it's not required. You can always git clone and do things the old-fashioned way. if that's the way you prefer. But we built these tools as a way of like wrapping around some like repetitive command line stuff that we do. So I'm going to be using that. So we're going to jump on over to Ionic, their GitHub page, and then we're going to go and find the stencil. So we want the stencil component starter. So the component starter is just, it's the exact same thing. So it's still stencil and still everything that we have in the Ionic PWA toolkit, minus the Ionic UI components. And also I think minus the router. So it's literally just a bare bones stencil compiler build. And then the config file is like set up more for deploying this thing as a standalone custom element. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the link up here, Ionic team / stencil component starter. And then I'm going to run engine start for starting a new project. I'm going to paste in the GitHub link, and then I'm going to name this MadnessCast. I'm going to make a MadnessCast component. Why not? So I'm going to make that, and actually I'm going to do this in the right place. So I'm going to cd into d/apps. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to do engine start. And hello to everyone on the interwebs. My wife is going crazy in the background with paperwork and files and all that stuff, so she won't be managing the chat tonight. I will, however.
Hello.
Hello, YouTubes. She's the eye candy of the channel. She pops in. It's like, oh, I don't have to look at Abraham Lincoln now. Okay, so everyone or anyone, ... Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do engine start. Then we're gonna type in the name of the GitHub organization, then the name of the repository, and then we can type in the name of the actual app that we're making, or the component we're making. So I'm gonna say MadnessCast. I'm gonna make a MadnessCast component, and then what we're gonna do is -e, and that's gonna do an editor. So this is like where we can actually set up, like what editor opens after it's done NPM installing and doing all that stuff. So I'm going to do code insiders. And then actually I can do one more really cool thing with this. And I've shown this before, but if you're new or you're just looking for a good time, I'll show you guys how to kind of get this immediately up to your GitHub. So what I can do is I'm going to go to my GitHub on Madness Labs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a repo using the little plus button here. I'm going to add a repository to my Madness Labs organization. And then what we're going to do is we're going to call this MadnessCast. And then I'm going to give a description. This is a MadnessCast component. Okay, and I'm going to make this guy public. And then we're going to create repository. Now, do not initialize the repository with a README. It'll end up making things a little wonky. So let's just like leave it at that. And then once we create the repository, we can add another command onto our start command over here, -r, and that'll be like the repo, the repository we want to hook up to. And we can use that same short length code. And we can say -r is going to be MadnessLab/MadnessCast. So this is where the repository is going to live on GitHub. And then once I do this, it should do a bunch of magic for us. So you'll see that it like git clones down the repository. Then it goes about actually cding into the directory, running an npm install. And then after it's done all of the magic, it will then go about opening up code insiders. And then it will also link up your remote so that you're actually ready to do your first commit. So now if everything went well, I can see all my files here. It looks good. It opened VS Code like I wanted it to. And it looks like my Git is ready to go. And another cool thing about using our command line tool, automatically it names your component inside of the package.json. So you don't have to go hunt that down. And we might add some more stuff to that command. This would be something great. Like if you guys have feedback on the engine, please feel free, head on over to our GitHub, github.com/MadnessLabs. Head on over there and submit issues on Madness Engine. We're always looking for new functionality that we could do to make your guys' life easier. As long as it's like an opt-in thing, then we're down for it. So cool. So now we've got our component made. We've got our commit ready. So I'm just going to say initial commit, and I'm going to get this on GitHub. So by just doing that right there, so I ran engine start. I ran that really long command to get it all hooked up. I made my initial commit, and then I clicked my syncing button, and now you can see I can refresh over here, and we're already, boom, we're already set up. So it looks like there's some kind of vulnerability, so we might want to fix that. Maybe submit an issue request to Stencil so they are aware of a vulnerability. Okay, so let's get back to the task at hand though. Let's get this guy up on NPM. So like let's get this as an installable component, and let's like make it do something. So like here, what you can see is like in the README for our project, they give you the instructions to get started. So we just kind of like blew through the first 2 steps here. We've cloned down the repo. We've already gone in there and like done our npm install, and then we've already added or like removed their remote origin, and we've added our own. So we've already done pretty much all of the getting started stuff with just that one command, which is super helpful. So now what we can do is scroll down a little bit further, and they'll show you like how to name your components, how to do your script tag or node modules, or run this in an actual Stencil starter app. So we're going to actually like, let's open up a component here. So you can see components, my component. So my component, cool. It looks like this is all working. So let's go ahead and run npm start and just start working on our component in the browser. I'm gonna open up YouTube over here. Okay, cool. So let me refresh. Okay, cool. So now we've got the start of our component here. And this is all just what comes with the repo, obviously. But now let's actually like put this out on NPM so that we can actually download and install this into another project. Maybe it's an Angular project, maybe it's a Stencil project. Let's just get this out online so that we can pull it down somewhere else. So to do that, again, let's consult our README here. All we need to do is we need to run a build, and then we can do the commands for NPM to go about publishing our package. So if you've never published a package to NPM, you will need to sign up for an account. They have a link in the README, so once you've followed me this far, you should be able to open up the README and see the link to how to publish and update a package. It's really, really simple. Usually it's the same as like running Git. When you like initialize a Git, you run npm init, you answer some questions, you sign up for an account, and then once everything is like set up, you can then just do npm version patch or version minor or major to like increment your versions, and then you can do npm publish, and it will actually take your plugin and publish it on npm. So that's what we're going to do. I've already got my account and mine is already hooked up. If you guys have any questions or you have any problems setting that stuff up, feel free to drop a comment in the chat room, or always feel free to reach out to us at info@madnesslabs.net, or we're really, again, just use Twitter way too much. Like it is like my new like obsession. Like I never liked Facebook like that much, but man, Twitter, you've got me pegged. Okay, so yeah, so feel free to hit us up on Twitter. Or, any network. We're pretty much on everything. Like, this is what we do, guys. This is what we do. Okay. So now like, let's go ahead and get our component. Let's get this guy up on NPM. So to do that, let's do NPM. Actually, I think we're pretty much already set up, to be honest. If we've got our name set correctly inside of our package, as well as, I'm going to update my thing. A sample component made for Madness casts by Madness Labs. Okay, so here's some things to note. So when Stencil is making your components to actually be something that's shared out, it reads out of the main file. So like, for instance, like when you run a build on Stencil in this case, what it's going to do is it's going to build everything to this dist directory. So unlike when we're working inside of an Ionic PWA or something like that, where everything's under the www directory, this is all going to be stored under the dist directory. So you're going to have this dist and then my component here. And my component, if you kind of see in your node or in your components, you've got a component called my component. So it's kind of packaging up the component as like this distribution file so that you can actually use that on NPM. So that's kind of what creates the magic, or what makes that whole relationship work. So what we can do if we want to change the name of ours is up here you can see my component is the namespace. So maybe I want to change this namespace to MadnessCast. And then I want to save that guy. And then I'm going to change the name in all of these places as well. So I'm going to change this to MadnessCast. And we'll change this to MadnessCast. And let's get trippy. Let's just get trippy on this video. Why not? We're going to use the share link. And, oops, no, close that. We're going to use the share link, and we're actually going to get the video iframe from this video, and we're going to actually pop that inside of our component for a little YouTubeception. Wow. I wish I had a sheep right now. I could make it happen. Wow. Oh, hey, we're up to 720p. Something's going right today. Okay, so yeah, we're all the way up to 720. Good for us. Good for us. Oh, and a little update. We actually just had AT&T tear up our whole neighborhood to give us fiber. So we're okay with that. We're definitely okay with that. So we will probably be upgrading, and you might see us in 1080p here pretty soon. You know, coming to a YouTube near you. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my link here. If I can remember how brains work. Oh no. Okay, so copy embed code, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my component, and I'm going, my component here, and I'm going to paste our YouTube link. Because why not, right? Let's take all that boilerplate crap out of here. Oh, I think it doesn't like the allow full screen. I've had this happen before. Okay, so this is a fun one. So iframes, it turns out they don't have their iframe set to allow the extra element or the extra attribute that YouTube adds on. I'm gonna enter this down so that we can all see it. So first off, let's get rid of all that style stuff. Let's just be plain Jane about this. Okay, so they are using some attributes here that we're gonna need. But the problem is that, yeah, see, so closing tag for div. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this allow doesn't exist. And so what we're gonna need, allow autoplay encrypted media. We might even be able to actually just remove that. Oh, no, it doesn't like either one of these guys. So neither one of these guys, these are two things that like YouTube adds onto the iframe that they give you that are not in the actual spec for an iframe. So we can, I think there's a way to extend these guys. I think we can actually extend this iframe attributes. Usually I'm just kind of lazy about it. I just go in here and I say allow string, and then what was the other one? Allow full screen. I usually just change it on my local machine. Probably not the greatest idea. If you guys know, it'd be really helpful. If you guys are better at extending these interfaces than myself, feel free to drop us a line. I'd love to see how to actually, like, I guess, let's see. I will try it. I will try it for you guys. Interface, YouTube iframe. Sorry, frame extends JSX elements dot iframe allow okay, so let's try this. So okay, so we're in the same spot. Now we're gonna say allow string namespace. I might have to namespace it. See, this is the stuff I am just terrible at. Declare global namespace JSX. Declare yeah, see, this stuff always stumps me. These freaking typings, holy crap. See, I don't know how to type this guy. That's my big trouble here. What do I do? Okay. So yeah, I think interface JSX intrinsic elements. God, I'm gonna be lazy, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have to get through this. So yeah, if you guys know how to easily extend a YouTube or any HTML element, send that my way because I am like super curious to know. I am self-taught in the typings world and not very well, obviously. Okay. So I'm gonna add these two attributes here. So we're gonna say string and allow full screen, all lowercase. It's going to be optional, and it's also going to be a string. Okay, now my compiler should stop screaming at me. Oh, sorry. No, it can be allow full screen. Can be anything. Okay. So now we should be able to npm start, and if everything went well, we should see our YouTube okay, so we don't see anything, and this is because when we run our compiler now, after we've changed the name in the package as well as in our stencil config, it's now compiling. Oh, did my mouse just decide to die? Yes, it did. Just one of those days, guys, just one of those days. All right, hold please.
Did you say your mouse? Oh, I have a charger.
All right, guys, I'm back just in time to have some coffee. Okay, hello again to anyone who's tuning in online. We didn't get the announcement out until a little bit later this week, mainly because we were just like deciding what we really wanted to cover. But yeah, this sounded like a really good idea to kind of get some people more focused on making smaller little pieces that they can kind of export out and then import those into their bigger projects. Okay, so now we need to change the link here from build/myComponent on our index.html. And we want to change that to match the name of our new dist file. So madnesscast.js. And now I should be able to save, and we should get our component. Booyah! We are watching ourselves build components with ourselves in the components. Oh my goodness. YouTubeception. Okay, so there's us doing stuff back a couple, like 30 seconds in the past. That's cool. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to give people the ability to like put this YouTube video in anything that they want. And we mean anything. It's like going to be like Matthew McConaughey, like or Nicolas Cage. Okay, Nicolas Cage. I want to build web components. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's rename our component to be something that actually makes sense, right? So let's name this guy MadnessCast and MadnessCast. Cool. And we're going to rename our component up here. And our compiler really does not like renaming our components. So I'm just going to kill the compiler for a second. And then we're going to rename this to MadnessCast. We're going to rename this. I've debated making a rename command for components, just because I have had several cases where I've had to rename components as much as you wouldn't think that would happen a lot. It actually happens quite frequently. So yeah, if you guys are interested, let us know, and it could be coming to a MadnessEnjinCLI near you. Okay, so MadnessCast and then MadnessCast. I think you guys know how to do this part. Refactoring is it's just something that everyone has to know by this point, right? Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing here. We don't really need any props on this one. We could, however, like put the YouTube link, the video link or something. We could take that out. Fuck it, why not? We're here, right? We're here. So let's do MadnessCast and then give them the ability to put in the video. So let's say this dot video or like episode. Ooh, this episode. Okay, so now we're gonna do it here. Episode. Sweetness. Okay, so now we've got our video player, and it's going to take one parameter prop for a video. And let's go ahead and finish renaming everything. MadnessCast. 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 Say it with me until we all forget what it means. Okay, so let's rename MadnessCast. Okay, so now I think we've renamed everything across the board. Let's go ahead and one more time jump into our index, and let's pass in the new episode param. Whoa. It's gonna be a string there, bro. Okay, so there we go. Now we've got everything changed here, and I'm gonna change the title of this. MadnessCast component. Cool, so let's go ahead and run our compiler again. And ta-diddly-duh, here it is. So now we've got our component with our YouTube video inside of it, and now we're like ready to take this guy and put it out there to the web so that they can start taking these things and putting them into their web apps and components. So how we're going to do that is very simple. Let's go ahead and kill our build. We're going to run npm run build. And this is going to build a production build or like a distribution build of our component. So then we're going to take that and we're going to upload that to npm. So now I'm going to do npm publish. And so what npm publish does is it reads through your package.json. It finds the name of the component, it finds the version, and then the distribution, all that different stuff. And it takes this file and it uploads it to npm so that other people can go about pulling it down. And then there's a wonderful tool called unpackage, which Stencil has like really called out here as like a really easy way to slap like these components into your project. It's basically a CDN or a content delivery network that's built around NPM. So like it uses NPM to like host a CDN. which is super cool because I don't think NPM is going anywhere. I freaking hope not. If that joypad left joypad taught us anything, is that NPM is super crucial. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're going to do npm publish, and then hopefully this just magically works. Boom! It totally did. So again, if you don't have an account, it's probably going to prompt you to say like, hey, you need to create an account, and follow that flow, follow the process. Again, if you guys have any problems, feel free to drop us a line. But now that I've npm published, I should be able to run on over to npm.js, and we're going to go to package / whatever you named your package. Note that if you name yours something common like YouTube or Ionic, the name's already going to be taken, so most likely they'll have you change it. And again, all of this stuff should be prompted to you once you run that npm publish. Okay, so we're going to do npm.js package MadnessCast, and now you'll see that we have a MadnessCast component, and you can see my README that got copied over. So I probably want to change this stuff from saying Stencil Component Starter to something that we would actually use, right? But now we can go about following the rest of the steps inside of our README. So if we scroll down here, and you can see this is the same README that we have up on our GitHub. So they're the same. They're going to be mirrors of each other, basically. Usually the way it works is GitHub is kind of like the newest version where you're storing everything, and then when you reach milestones or major versions, you make new versions, and then you deploy them or you publish them to npm. And then usually that's where you'd use the different releases on GitHub to keep track of all that stuff. So let's say you wanted to kind of tie up these commands a little bit, make it a little simpler to go about publishing your package to npm. So what we can do to make that a little bit easier is inside of our commands here in our package.json under scripts, we could make maybe a publish command of our own. So let's do publish. And then what we can do is we can set a list of commands that we want to run. So we want to run, first off, we want to run a stencil, or we want to run npm run build, and that'll run a build. And then we can use and to make a list of commands that we want it to run. So we're going to run the build, and then we're going to go about doing a npm version. Well, usually I'll say it like this. Let's make a couple. Let's say publish patch. Yeah, let's just do publish patch. Because what we're going to do is we're going to set up all the commands that we're going to do repetitively. We're going to set them all up into one command. So we're going to do npm run build. Then we're going to do npm version patch. Then we're going to do and npm publish. So now we have this publish patch command. And that's going to allow us to publish a patch version. So if you're not used to semantic versioning, it's a standard of kind of versioning your software. So they've already kind of got us set up in Stencil for the kind of way that it works. So usually the first version that you release is 0.0.1. And then every time you make a small change, it's a patch. And you would just change this first number. Every time you make a large change that breaks something inside of the component or inside of the API or whatever you're making, you would increment the second, called the minor. And then the last number, this number here, are for major iterations of the software. So if you were to completely rip out Stencil and build this all with React or something, you would definitely create a completely new version. So that's the general flow. Everyone has their own opinions on how it should work. So do whatever works best for you. But usually, again, usually you're just doing patches to kind of patch things up, especially with these components. You're not usually changing a whole bunch of huge API stuff. But if you do, that's how you would go about doing it. So we could build another command here for publishing a minor. And again, I wouldn't waste my time making a publish major, because again, you're usually going to be ripping out and replacing your entire stack. So yeah. Okay, so now we've got our super easy publish commands. I'm going to try it out. So I'm going to go in my README here, and then I'm going to go and update and call this Madness Cast component. This is a YouTube video loader component from Madness Labs Madness Casts. Okay, cool. So I'm going to save that. And now I've got a change, right, that I've made to my code. We've got lots of changes here that I've made to my code. So before you can actually go about doing your NPM publish, you have to commit your changes. And so that's to protect you from like thinking that like, oh, everything runs good on my computer, and then you run npm publish and you're actually publishing the version on your computer, not the stuff that's actually online. So they've kind of got a little safeguard built in there. So just make sure that every time you make a change, you go about committing that stuff before you try to publish. So I'm going to go ahead and say switch component name. Okay, cool. So now I can do npm, I can do my new command that we made, npm run publish, wire, get out of the way, publish patch, oops, publish patch. And so what this is going to do again is it's just going to run a stencil build, which is going to build the distribution version. Then it's going to go about running npm version patch, which is going to increment us. See, now it says version 0.0.2. And actually in your commits now, you'll see that there's actually another commit that's been made for that new patch version. And then it went and published it to NPM. So now when we refresh on NPM now, you'll see we're on version 0.0.2, and you can see our new README file on NPM. So yeah, that's how we get it up on NPM and how we can like quickly make a command that'll wrap around like publishing new stuff. So like once we're all set up and like we've got our component out there, now we want to go about using it inside of a project, right? So we've been working on the Madness Labs PWA for goodness, like just months now, right? So now we're gonna like open that guy back up, and we're gonna install this component and then use it inside of our Stencil project, and I'll show you how that actually works. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up my project here. So Madness Labs PWA. Awesome. Slight breaky for goodness sakey. So again, if you're just joining us, we are doing a stencil component that is going to be able to, or well, that we've pushed now to NPM. And now we're going to take that component that we've published on NPM, and we're going to install that on another project so we can use it inside of the project. And we're gonna do it a couple different ways. So way number one, way the first. So we're going to do a really simple one. First off, let's start our compiler here. So let's do npm start. Let's make sure our other one isn't running still. Okay, good. So we're going to start up this project and make sure that it is indeed running as it should be. Coffee break. Seriously, Starbucks, you spawn, please. We need the sponsorship. Our trash can looks like a hipster coffee graveyard. It's terrible. Okay. I don't think I even have blood anymore. I think I'm just literally pumping espresso at this point. Okay. So let's go ahead and on our homepage here, this terribly designed, like I wish we could like just focus back in on like what we were trying to do, you know, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this component, we're going to put it inside of our Madness Labs PWA project. So the first way we can do it is we can go into our source/index.html, and we can just use the script file as kind of outlined here in the README. So we can publish it to NPM, then we can use this script tag here for unpackage, and then just change this to our needs. So I'm going to go here at the bottom of my source index file in the head, and I'm going to go ahead, let me shrink this down. I'm going to go ahead and link this to the correct component, right? So we're going to say MadnessCast at version 0.0.2. Remember the version we were on? And then we're going to do MadnessCast, right? Awesome. And then we can actually use our HTML tag. So that MadnessCast tag that we had, we can use that inside of any page. And the cool thing is that, so we actually set it up just like, which window was I in? I'm so confused. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to copy this MadnessCast tag out of the original project. And let's go ahead and just like slap this in the top of my app. My app.tsx. Yeah. Actually, let's go into app-home. Let's go to the home page. Let's go to the home page, put it in here. Okay, so in the content area, I'm just going to put my new MadnessCast component, and then I can save, and I should see it in my browser. My King Koopa. Boom! So it's automatically put my component in the page, and it's just using that script tag. So the only difference here between kind of like your traditional Ionic PWA toolkit doing the components versus this way is that we're actually loading this script in the head of the browser. So it's actually being pulled in. It's not going to be lazy loaded. So it's not going to be loaded whenever the browser needs it. It's going to load it instantly, like the rest of script tags that you put inside of the head. So this is probably not the best way to do it. However, this is a really portable way. So like if you're working in a current project that doesn't have the ability to completely switch to a new framework or to do something different, this is a really good way of just kind of building it into a component, hosting it on NPM, and then you can just install it with a script tag, a CDN, or something like that. Or this is also great for if you're making some kind of a product or something that you want to allow people to use inside of their websites. So for instance, like the YouTube iframe, like imagine if YouTube, instead of giving you an iframe, they give you a little script that has a script in it, and then they tell you, hey, just use this new YouTube component and put your video link, and we take care of the rest. And what's also neat about that is that you can kind of control versioning a little bit. Like you can just push out a new version and tell them to update their script tag, and then you should be off to the races. So, and I think via the unpackage, I think you can also target the latest version of something. So you could also even have it automatically updating, which is really, really cool. So cool. So now we've got our component in that way. Let's utilize like a stencil component in a stencil project. So we're in a stencil project right now. Let's go ahead and use this component and load it into our stencil. So to do that, what we're going to do is let's go back to our index, and just so that we can make sure that we break it, because you know we love breaking stuff on these MadnessCasts. So let's go ahead and just break this thing. Okay, so now we don't have the component loading in like we want it to, but we can fix that. And we can do that by simply going to our we can do that by first we need to npm install it, because remember now it's a node package. So the cool thing about node packages, you can install them. So we're going to install them. So we can do that by simply running an npm install. So we're going to do npm install --save, and then we're going to do the name of our component. So MadnessCast. So that simple, right? We've named it MadnessCast. We published it as MadnessCast. We're installing it as MadnessCast. It literally couldn't be simpler. And when we're done installing, we can see it got our version 0.0.2. And if we wanted to really see it work, you can go into the changes here on VS Code, and we can see, yes, now we do indeed have MadnessCast as a dependency on our project. So that's not all we need to do. We also need to, just like Ionic Core, or the Stencil router, we need to include that so that Stencil knows to like include those components inside of our build, our bundle, right? So if we jump back to our page, you'll see that like if I npm start, this is still not going to be working. Just what you want to see. You know, you came to this MadnessCast because you want to see stuff not working. That's how we do. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to actually include this. So to do that, what's really cool is, again, if you guys remember from a couple weeks back, if you guys remember from a couple of weeks back, my app, Stencil kind of changed the way that they go about loading components. So you used to have to come into your Stencil config, and you'd have to like point out, I'm using this collection. So you'd point out, I'm using Ionic Core. And now they've ditched that in favor of using the standard ES6 imports. So instead, they'll just use the imports inside of wherever your main app file is. They'll use, oh God, oh geez. Oh, that Starbucks is coming back up on me, Morty. Okay, so now we want to do an import at the top here, and we want to import our Madness cast. And you'll see if you've got VS Code, you've got that awesome autocomplete. And now when I save it, because I've imported into my app.tsx, which this is the main app file, it then knows to include that component, much like Ionic Core or Stencil Core. All those different things get included into the compiler because they're imported at the top of this file. So we can actually include Madness Cast. We don't have to do this in the page, so we don't have to do this in app home, right? We don't have to import it like we do here. We just have to let it know that it's going to be importing these for the compiler. So the compiler knows, okay, include that in my bundle. And what's great is the advantage of doing it this way is that it gets to take advantage of the lazy loading that Stencil offers. So this component is only going to load whenever I'm coming to my home page. It's not gonna load instantly. It's not gonna be called instantly like the one that we include into our HTML. So there is another way you can do it. There is also including it in like a framework, right? And usually, so like a Stencil starter app, yeah, we're good on that. Node modules. So those are the two main ways. It gets a little tricky if you're inside of a regular Ionic application. It gets a little bit trickier. And I don't think I'm going to cover it just because I haven't done it myself at this point. I've really just been focused on kind of building these things for either legacy projects that don't have their own like web component, custom element aspect, like Ionic 1 projects and stuff like that. Or I've just been using them as like a plain script tag, or Stencil projects. And so this should get you going on like almost everything that you're working on right now. If you want to include it in an Angular 2 project, I think they have on their documentation, if you go to StencilJS.com, if we go into docs, and then you go to framework integration, they actually have a really good write-up on how you would actually get it running inside of like Angular 2. So this is a good read if you want to head on over to Ionic or Stencil's website and implement these custom elements inside of your current Ionic 3 application. If you guys missed last week's episode, it was really, really good. We did a little take on like some of the more complex components of Ionic Core. So for instance, opening up like a modal or the toast message, stuff like that, where you're kind of like, you're talking to a component that technically lives outside of your component. Like a modal overlays the screen. So it's not like inside of your component technically. Luckily, they've created a really elegant way to kind of talk to them via controllers. So feel free, the link is in the description. So feel free to check out last week's video. And again, the challenge this week. So what we want you guys to do, participate, be part of the madness. So what we want from you guys is at us, Madness Labs, and at StencilJS on Twitter. And send us your components. Send us the custom elements that you have been making, and hopefully they're hosted on NPM because I want to install them and start playing around with them. So use this video if you're just getting into this whole stencil and web components and kids these days with their Blu-rays. If you're just getting into all that stuff, then like use this video, get your component up there, add it on Twitter. We're gonna review them, and then next week we're gonna pick out some of our favorites, and then we're going to actually show them on the cast. So this is your guys' chance to contribute a little bit back to the community who's been so good to us, and also at the same time maybe get a little publicity for you or your brand. So great stuff. Thanks for joining us. This week's going to be a little bit shorter, just because I think we pretty much knocked the concept, which is like a first. Like usually we're rambling on. So hopefully this was helpful, you guys, and hopefully we'll be, and also I hope we'll be starting in the next week or two. We'll be starting our new mini series, mini playlist of the Madness bits. So look forward to that. And that being said, it's been great, guys, and we will see you guys next Tuesday on our next Madness cast. Let's see those components, guys. Peace out. Awkward silence while it cancels the stream. While it cancels the stream.